After moving around a lot, Max and his mom return to the house where he lived as a baby. While unpacking, Max finds a photo of his dad Jim, who passed away. But something strange happens. When he touches the photo, the TV starts glitching, confused and thinking he's seeing things. Max washes his face and heads to school. On the way, he passes an old laboratory called Tech, where his dad used to work. As he looks at the place, his mom sends him a text. But when Max picks up his phone, his hands make it shut off completely. Now he's sure something's wrong with him. Panicking, Max rides his bike to school, but he's so distracted that he almost crashes into a truck. He flips his bike over a railing. Max wakes up to see a girl named Sophia, the one driving the truck, checking on him. After making sure he's fine, she tells him to meet her after school so she can fix his bike. Max feels okay again and heads to school. While walking the halls, he notices a plaque dedicated to his dad, saying he died during a hurricane. Later, Sophia meets Max and takes him to her house to repair his bike. When she's done, Max thanks her, rides back home, and finds his mom talking to Dr. Miles, who currently runs Tech. Miles used to work with Max's dad. Max's mom introduces them, then tells Max to go take a shower. But when Max gets out of the bathroom, that strange glitching feeling happens again. Meanwhile, at the Tech lab, something odd is happening. A small alien-like drone lights up inside one of their pools and starts giving off strange energy. The scientists notice, but when someone tries to get close, things get dangerous. The drone escapes, sneaking past guards and fleeing the building by digging into the ground. Back at home, Max sits down for dinner with his mom. She explains that Miles was there the day of the accident that killed his dad. Hearing this stresses Max out, and his powers flare up, cutting all the power in the house. When he goes to the basement to fix the fuse box, Max finds survival supplies, food, water, and hurricane guides hidden away. This makes him even more curious. Eventually, Max reconnects the power and goes back upstairs, where his mom and Dr. Miles are arguing. Miles leaves but gives Max his business card, saying he can call if he wants answers. Later, Max searches Miles on the computer and finds news about the tornado that destroyed the Tech lab. As he learns more, Max's powers start acting up again. His hands start glowing with some kind of liquid energy. Confused and overwhelmed, Max heads outside to test his powers. He realizes he's like a human battery, capable of creating energy. But because he doesn't know how to control it, things around him blow up. After his test, Max goes on a date with Sophia at a restaurant. During their meal, Max's powers start acting up again. He feels sick, temporarily loses his hearing, and even causes a blackout in the restaurant. Panicked, he rushes to the bathroom. Under the darkness, he realizes his entire body is glowing. Scared of being discovered, Max runs out of the restaurant, leaving Sophia behind without any explanation. Not knowing what's happening to him, Max rides his bike deep into the forest, but his body finally gives out and he releases a massive burst of energy before collapsing. Out of nowhere, something appears in front of him, and Max passes out. When he wakes up the next morning, he finds himself in his bed. His clothes are completely destroyed, leaving him even more confused. As he heads to the bathroom to think, he notices a strange white drone following him. Freaked out, Max runs to his room and tries to lock the door, but the little robot follows him. Desperate, Max grabs a bat to defend himself. Sensing Max's panic, the drone speaks, asking him to calm down. It introduces itself as Steel, an alien being that feeds on the special energy Max's body produces. Steel explains it is meant to protect Max from losing control. Like what happened in the forest. Max, still in shock, asks who Steel is and where it came from. Steel says it doesn't remember everything but knows its mission is to protect Max. As they talk, Max's mom walks into the room. In a rush, Max hides Steel in the laundry basket. After his mom leaves, Steel notices Max's energy building up again and attaches to his chest to absorb the extra power. Worried his mom might find out about Steel, Max takes him into the forest to talk. While they're talking, two black SUVs pull up nearby. Armed men get out and start hunting for Steel, forcing Max and the alien to run for their lives. During the escape, something strange happens. Max and Steel's minds connect, and Max sees a memory of his dad, Jim. In this memory, Jim is attacked by strange creatures called Ultra Lynx. Max doesn't understand why their memories are linked but decides to figure it out later. Thinking school might be safer, Max takes Steel to class. But the little alien can't stay out of trouble, constantly almost exposing them. Frustrated and unsure of what to do next, Max hides under the school bleachers with Steel. They try to recover more of Steel's memories but come up with nothing, until Steel sees Max's drawing of the old Tech lab. When Steel learns the lab was attacked by Ultra Lynx, Max decides to break in and investigate. They sneak into the restricted area where his father's lab used to be. Once inside, Max's powers go out of control again, but Steel stabilizes him. This leads them to discover something called turbo energy. Max tests his new abilities and discovers that he's super strong and fast, so strong he can punch through concrete. Excited, Max spends the afternoon training with Steel. To improve his agility, Max tries parkour but slips and falls from a great height. In a split second, Steel transforms into armor to protect him from the fall. Max is shocked and asks Steel what just happened. Steele explains that when their energy syncs up, they can create protective armor together. With the armor on, Max experiences another memory of Steele's past. This time he sees Ultralinks invading his dad's lab, and Steele was there when it all happened. Curious, Max asks how Steele knew his dad, but the little alien says it can't remember, deciding he needs more answers. Max remembers Miles might know something. He goes home, finds Miles' business card in the fridge with N-Tech's address, and heads there. On the way, Max talks to Steele, who reveals more about the Ultralinks, explaining they can control the elements and were likely responsible for the storm that killed Max's dad. Distracted by the conversation, Max nearly gets hit by Sophia again. She stops her car this time to scold him for almost causing an accident. While Max tries to explain, Steele warns him they're being followed. Forced to act quickly, Max rides down an alley to escape, leaving Sophia behind and confused. Steele suggests they use the armor to escape, but Max refuses. Instead, he comes up with a plan to split up and lose their pursuers. Though Steele thinks it's a bad idea, he follows Max's instructions. While Max rides off, Steele punctures the tires of their enemies' car to buy them more time. Max comes out of the alley and runs into Sophia, who immediately starts complaining about how he always leaves her in the middle of a conversation. Max tries to explain but quickly notices the SUV following him. Without much time to explain, he asks Sophia for a ride. She agrees, and Max puts his bike in her truck. Sophia drives him to N-Tech, where they meet Dr. Miles. Inside, Miles shows them around the facility and shares stories about working with Max's dad, Jim. Wanting more answers, Max asks to speak with Miles alone. He asks what really happened during the accident that took his dad's life. Miles explains that when he arrived at the lab that day, it was already destroyed. Miles then shows Max a miniature energy core, which he says was Jim's greatest project, designed to capture any kind of energy. According to Miles, Jim was so obsessed with the core that he skipped important safety procedures, which Miles believes caused the lab accident. Shocked and upset by this, Max feels his powers flare up again. The energy is quickly absorbed by the core, but Miles doesn't say anything about it. Sophia walks in, noticing Max isn't feeling well, and tries to help him, but instead of staying, Max decides to leave, running away from both Sophia and Miles. As he runs along the train tracks, Max has flashes of his dad's memories. Dizzy and disoriented, he suddenly realizes a strong windstorm, a hurricane, is coming toward him. Recognizing that this is an ultralent, he hides inside some concrete pipes. After a few seconds, the windstorm abruptly stops and Max hears someone honking nearby. He finds a woman whose car is stalled on the train tracks. With a train quickly approaching, Max uses his powers to jump-start the car, giving her enough time to drive away and escape. But the Ultralenix isn't finished. He reappears, transforming into a raging tornado with the storm now dangerously close. Max runs to a nearby cabin for shelter. He thinks he's safe for a moment, but the tornado comes straight for him and destroys the cabin, leaving him exposed. Finally, the Ultralench reveals itself from the storm, stretching out a massive arm to grab Max. At the last second, Steele shows up and transforms into armor to protect Max, absorbing part of the impact. The attack knocks Max and Steele out of sync, and they are forced to flee for their lives. They take cover behind a fence, but Max is determined to stop the storm. He tries to use his powers but fails, only managing to mess with a nearby railroad signal. The Ultralinx closes in and tries to pull Max into the storm again. Max holds onto the fence for dear life as Steele flies to him, re-sinks, and surrounds him in armor once more. This not only saves Max but also stops the storm. With the tornado gone, Steele notices the Ultralinx core is exposed and tells Max to attack. Max listens and fires a blast of energy, destroying the Ultralinx instantly. As Max stands there processing what happened, the destroyed Ultralinx falls in front of him. Its appearance shocks him. It looks almost identical to Steele. This triggers memories of the night his father died, and Max suddenly realizes that the Ultralinx betrayed Jim. It had tampered with the energy core, causing the accident that led to his dad's death. Furious, Max accuses Steele of being a traitor, believing he was somehow involved in his father's death. Ignoring Steele's attempts to explain, Max storms off, leaving his partner behind. Confused and angry, Max returns home but he finds armed men in the hallway of his house. He instantly assumes they've captured his mom, Molly. While trying to come up with a plan, the soldiers spot Max and chase him into the woods, forcing him to flee. Not knowing where else to turn, Max goes to Sophia. He promises to explain everything later but urgently asks for her truck and a phone. Using a special glove, Max calls Dr. Miles and tells him his mom has been captured. Miles realizes this is just like what happened when Jim was alive. He warns Max that they've likely taken her to the old N-Tech lab and that it's a trap. But Max doesn't listen, and drives straight there. On the way, his powers start to spike, causing streetlights to explode and making his truck stop working. Since his bike is still in the dumpster, Max pedals to the abandoned laboratory, searching for his mom. Meanwhile, Sophia calls Molly to check on Max. Molly says she doesn't know where her son is, and Sophia mentions he has been acting strangely since their visit to Miles. After hanging up, Molly asks some in-tech soldiers if Miles ordered them to eliminate Steel. When she learns that he did, she realizes that Miles, Jim's former partner, is a traitor. She tells the soldiers that she owns a majority of in-tech, so they must listen to her and help find her son. Unaware that he has been tricked, Max keeps looking for his mom and eventually finds the lab where his dad worked. There, he discovers that someone is monitoring his vital signs. While exploring, he finds the life-sized energy core and realizes Steel is trapped inside. However, the core has a protective layer so Max can't get to Steel. As he explores, Max has another flashback and remembers that Jin and Steel entered the energy core to charge a weapon to fight the Ultralinks, but instead of firing, Miles sabotaged the lab's defenses to let the Ultralinks in. He then traps Steel inside the core, accusing him of being a traitor to humans. While inside, Miles activates the core to absorb energy. Jim, determined to stop him, decides to overload the system. He tells Steel to go into hibernation mode, which will help him survive the explosion, and asks Steel to find and protect Max when he wakes up. Back in the present, Max regains consciousness and realizes Miles is after him because he's still learning to control his powers. He's easily overpowered by Miles. Trying to defend himself, Max uses his powers, but Miles wears armor that absorbs energy, so he isn't harmed. Miles then declares that Max will be his source of energy, and forces him to enter the core. Refusing to obey, Max accuses Miles of betraying his father and tries to fight back, but gets knocked down again. Miles then reveals that Jim was actually an alien. In a desperate move, Max enters the core but plans to merge with Steel. Inside the machine, he apologizes for doubting Steel and begins to overload the core with energy, distracting Miles. Now reconnected with Steel, Max activates his turbo mode and comes out of the core ready to fight. This time he can fight back more effectively. However, Miles's armor continues to absorb Max's tachyon energy, making him weaker. To regain an advantage, Steel activates turbo camouflage mode, allowing them to sneak attack Miles, but Miles can see their movement in the water, and he gains the upper hand again. As Max is pinned to the ground, Miles drains his energy and separates him from Steel. Just then, N-Tech soldiers arrive and start shooting at Miles. Giving Max a moment to think, Max devises a plan to overload Miles's armor and create an explosion, just like he did in the forest. They rush at Miles and let him stab Steel's armor, activating turbo mode. With a huge surge of energy, Miles' armor begins to fail, and Max finally causes the explosion he wanted, defeating Miles but using up a lot of his own energy. A few moments after the blast, Max and Steel wake up and are rescued by N-Tech soldiers. Back home, Molly finally tells Max the whole truth. After Jim's death, she moved to different cities to keep him away from the Ultralinks. When Miles suggested using the N-Tech system for safety, she returned, almost risking Max's capture, but they managed to defeat Miles. However, the Ultralinks are still out there, and soon, Max will be hunted by them. But with Steel by his side and his turbo mode ready, there's nothing that can stop him. What did you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.